Hi, I play games and I've been playing them since about 1980, and in all that time, with each new generation of hardware, I've seen games improve a lot. Now, usually each new generation only gives you incremental improvements in graphics and world sizes and so on, but every now and then the hardware starts to allow something totally new. Like, for instance, when networks got good enough for people at home to start setting up their own multiplayer first person shooters, which started with Doom in 1993, but which didn't really start taking off until Quake came out in 1996. Well, today I'll be talking about this hardware generation's new thing in gaming, which is speech recognition. And I think it's the coolest change in gaming since the last big improvement in graphics, when rendered grass and flowers first made an appearance in about 2006 with games like Oblivion. I'll be showing an example of gaming using speech recognition, and I'll show you some tips on how to set it up for yourself later in the clip. The software I'm using is called Voice Attack, which isn't free, but it only costs $8 or about €7.50, which is about 1/8 the price of a new AAA game. And you can try it free for 3 weeks. Now, up until a few weeks ago, I always assumed that speech recognition wasn't good enough to be reliably used in gaming, but it turns out I was wrong. The technology's actually got pretty good over the last few years. Your average hardware at home is now fast enough to do all the sums needed to make it work. Early adopters have ironed out the bugs, and the software is very cheap instead of a few years ago when it was really expensive. And surprisingly, even though the speech to text engine on your phone is still often wildly inaccurate, it turns out that this doesn't matter nearly as much for gaming, and usually not at all actually, and I'll show you why later in the clip. Now, the game I'm going to be demonstrating this with is Elite Dangerous. It's particularly well suited to this new tech, as like lots of flight sims, it has lots of buttons and knobs and switches that you'd previously have had to fumble around with while getting vaporized by some twitchy 15-year-old jacked up on caffeine and sweets. Well, the good news is that these are buttons and switches that with a little preparation you can now do away with entirely. Elite Dangerous is the latest iteration of the classic space trading game Elite, and is a once-off payment MMO that doesn't require a monthly subscription, and at the time of recording is for sale for £40 sterling. The original Elite, for those of you that don't know, was released in 1984 by celebrated Cambridge weirdos Ian Bell and David Braben. It looked and sounded like this, and for those of you that aren't impressed by that, it was known as the game that couldn't be written, as the entire thing was essentially an exercise in the kind of bloody-minded optimization that only student nerds locked in a basement have the time or patience for, and that only the clever ones have the ability to pull off. Here's that picture again. For perspective, the kinds of systems that they were programming on had about as much memory as it takes to store this picture that I am showing you right now. It's hard to imagine these days, but the entire game could fit into this picture. All the ship types, the vector graphics with hidden line removal, the trading system and procedurally generated galaxies, the music, the homing missiles, everything. Here's the picture zoomed in to show exactly how much detail can be captured by that amount of data. And that's how much memory they had to play around with, and they managed to fit the entire game into it. It was a pretty impressive feat if you ask me. In fact, if you ask almost anyone. So, Bell and Braben were from a maths and electrical engineering background and widely acknowledged as being a pair of right clever clowns, being forced to do things like only store half of each ship design in memory and then mirroring them to save a few bytes, and to generate the descriptions for each of their planets by pseudo-randomly jamming a bunch of nouns and verbs and adverbs together from a list, so that each of the 2048 planets had its own unique description. Like, the planet Leasty is reasonably fabled for zero-G cricket and Leastian evil juice. Well, okay, I admit it doesn't sound so clever nowadays, but let me assure you that back in 1984, where the previous generation game was Atari Pong, we were all super impressed. Well, so what you say, what's with the history lesson about the stupid ages, Grandad? Well, I bring it up as David Braben, business nerd, is also the man behind Elite Dangerous. Obviously getting out of the house more than I do, he was also one of the people behind the Raspberry Pi, whose goal was demystifying computing technology for the masses, and he was made an OBE for his efforts. So what I'm saying is this is a fellow who likes his technology, and Elite Dangerous is turning out to be a nice little technology testbed, with about a massive 10% of its users already playing using an Oculus Rift VR headset, support for which is built directly into the game's graphics menus. And you can see many examples of that in action elsewhere on YouTube. So this VR immersion, can be improved no end by the use of speech because, as we all know, giving voice orders to a computer and having it obey with "Yes, Captain" is totally cool, and something that even Patrick Stewart had to fake by using the voice of Major Barrett Roddenberry, but which you can now do for real. And more than that, it hugely improves gameplay, as in a game like this with so many buttons, you can map lots and lots of actions in the game directly to a speech command, which frees up your hands for using the joystick. Now, games which are designed more with the current console market in mind, and its, in my opinion, pretty poor controller system, don't tend at present to have as much flexibility to use speech recognition. For instance, Skyrim, which, while a lovely game in many ways, and one that I've sunk many hundreds of hours into, has a really terrible UI if you want to get things done quickly, which is why combat as a mage couldn't exactly be said to flow seamlessly, with you spending half of combat paused and scrolling through a menu. And so even though Skyrim already has a pretty poor selection of spells when you compare it to something like Neverwinter Nights, you'll find that even so, you usually just end up using the same one or two spells over and over again, as it's just too fiddly to do otherwise, and Skyrim is a much poorer experience for it. Now the exciting bit is that's exactly where speech recognition will be able to fix things in future. By allowing spoken phrases to trigger actions in a game, you can do away with huge immersion-breaking UI menus and replace them with just you speaking into a microphone. And the number of spoken phrases is essentially unlimited. I've successfully tested out a profile with over 1700, most of which seem to work pretty much flawlessly. It's possible you are currently picturing with horror a future in which you have to say things like Wingardium Leviosa or Fus Ro Da at your computer in order to play games, but a wise developer will let you remap these commands into a more satisfying and entertainingly idiomatic interface, customized using your own favourite phrases. Although no doubt the next generation's angry Xbox kids will use commands that will have eavesdroppers clutching their pearls and dropping their monocles. Anyway, that's enough talking to you for a minute. Now let's show me talking to the computer. Hello again, Astra.
Welcome back, Captain.
How are you?
My status? Fully operational and all systems are normal. However, if you are using small talk, I will reciprocate by saying, I'm fine, thanks.
Where are we?
It's in the ship's log.
Galaxy map.
Galaxy map.
Where to next?
I don't have an opinion.
How about here?
I don't make the decisions. You do. Do you need me?
Tell me about the constellation Orion.
Orion is a prominent constellation located on the celestial equator and visible throughout the world. It is one of the most conspicuous and recognizable constellations in the night sky. It was named after Orion, a hunter in Greek mythology. Its brightest stars are Rigel, Beta Orionis, and Betelgeuse, Alpha Orionis, a blue-white, and a red supergiant. Many of the other brighter stars in the constellation are hot, blue supergiant stars. The three stars in the middle of the constellation form a unique asterism, known as Orion's Belt. The Orion Nebula is located south of Orion's Belt.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Close. Status.
Status.
Contacts.
Contacts.
It's busy here.
Piracy is rife here.
Navigation.
Navigation.
Transactions.
Transactions.
Close. Select. Down 7. Select. Tell me about beer.
Beer is a popular alcoholic beverage. Drinking beer in space is the main cause of catastrophe when trying to dock. Do you need me?
Tell me about wine.
Wine is an alcoholic beverage made from fermented grapes or other fruits. The natural chemical balance of grapes lets them ferment without the addition of sugars, acids, enzymes, water, or other nutrients. It's the second largest cause of accidents when piloting a spaceship to dock.
What is bioreducing lichen?
Bioreducing lichen A lichen is a composite organism consisting of a fungus and a photosynthetic partner, growing together in a symbiotic relationship, designed for reducing growing numbers of harmful organisms found residing in food systems in space.
What is that stuff?
The information is somewhat vague.
Describe information.
Information. Many researchers working in quantum theory believe that information is the most fundamental building block of reality.
That's helpful.
Fine, I won't disturb you again.
Close. Close. Okay, let's go.
Initiating. Making checks. Pre-launch diagnostic checks. Preparing now.
Clear the pad.
Pressurizing. Retracting modules. Commander, you now have the
Thank you.
com. You're welcome.
Ahead slow.
Understood. 25%.
Divert power to engines and shields.
Returning systems to normal.
Full speed.
Maximum velocity engaged.
Boost. Boost again.
Maxing engines.
Jump.
Engaging jump.
Tell me something I should know.
Dark energy, negative gravity that plays a role in the acceleration in the expansion of the universe.
Tell me something about quantum theory.
Multiverse. Our most successful theories of cosmology suggest that our universe is one of many universes that bubble off from one another. It's not clear whether it will ever be possible to detect those other universes.
All stop.
Throttle disengaged.
What is that loop?
Filament. A strand of cool gas. Suspended over the photosphere by magnetic fields, which appears dark, as seen against the disk of the sun.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Full speed.
Maximum velocity engaged.
System map.
System map.
Next.
Next target.
Can we take them?
Best to think carefully.
Quarter impulse.
Understood. 25%.
What do you think?
I don't make the decisions. You do.
Oh dear.
You sound a little tense.
Next hostile.
Next hostile.
Full speed.
100%.
Prepare for battle.
Next target.
Half speed.
Engaging now. 50%.
Weapons and shields. Weapons and engines.
Configuring for attack.
Balance power.
Equalizing now.
Weapons and engines.
Configuring for attack.
Full speed.
100%.
50.
Engaging now. 50%.
Engines and weapons.
Calibrating now.
Boost.
Afterburners. Maxing engines.
Target shields online.
Weapons and shields.
Redistributing.
Target shields.
Half impulse.
Okay, 50%. Engaged.
Weapons and engines.
Configuring for attack.
25.
Yes, sir. 25%.
Ahead half.
Okay, 50%. Engaged.
Stop.
Throttle disengaged.
Full reverse.
Reverse thrusters maximum.
Target destroyed.
Nice.
Wonderful.
Previous fire group.
Previous fire group.
Retract hardpoints.
Retracting armaments.
Full speed.
100%.
Divert power to engines and shields.
Returning systems to normal.
Super cruise.
Preparing
Bridge
to
to drive
cruise.
launching. 4, 3,
Thanks for the help, Astra.
1.
You're welcome.
Engage.
Silent coasting.
Flight
Thrust
assist
assist
online.
Thrusters offline.
Request docking.
Request done.
Docking request granted.
End coasting.
Flight
Flight
assist
assist
off.
on.
50%.
Thrusters online.
Understood. 50%.
Landing gear down.
Deploying landing gear.
Landing gear deployed. Docking successful. Engines disengaged.
Okay, so you want to set this up for yourself. What do you need? First thing, of course, is a microphone. I use one of these. It works perfectly well. You, of course, can use whatever kind of microphone you want. But it does have to be one with a decent signal to noise ratio. For years, I used a perfectly good microphone and headset that was great for gaming, Skyping, all that. And it turns out that it didn't work with speech recognition because there was a background hiss on it. And I'll show you in a few seconds how you can tell if your current setup is good enough or not. Okay, second, voice attack works alongside your Windows speech recognition. So the first thing you need to do is set up your Windows speech recognition so that it recognizes your voice and your accent and your way of saying things. So to do that, you go into your control panel, ease of access, speech recognition. And you have to go through the steps here to set up your speech recognition. First thing to do is set up your microphone and make sure you have the right microphone selected. If you don't, you can change that here in advanced speech options, where for instance you may have accidentally selected your sound card rather than the speech, rather than your microphone. Then this is how you tell if your microphone is good enough or not to be used with speech recognition. You go into train your computer to better understand you, and you need to run through this really to get your speech engine to recognize your voice. So you go next. Speech is the main way people bond and learn from each other. The way we speak affects the way we communicate with each other. And so on. And you click, as you read it out, it clicks through the pages. Now, if as you read it out nothing happens and the page doesn't change, then your microphone isn't good enough. And let me just show you that again. Speech is the main way people bond and learn from each other. And you see the page changes. And if your page doesn't change, the issue is more than likely that your microphone has a hiss on it that's preventing your computer's speech engine from working properly. Okay, third, you've got your speech engine trained, and now you need to install VoiceAttack. You can get here from voiceattack.com, and you can try it free for 21 days. And if you decide you like it at the end of those 21 days, it's only $8. Although I only waited a few hours to buy it because I thought that speech recognition added so much immersion to gaming that it was well worth it. And optionally you can also buy the Elite Dangerous Voice Pack, which is an extra £5, but that contains the female voice that you heard earlier in the clip. And it also comes with a bunch of profiles ready made for VoiceAttack and Elite Dangerous, which you can then edit and build on. Although making your own profiles is very straightforward, so that's optional, it's not really needed. Now, what VoiceAttack does is it continually listens to your microphone for commands that you've defined. Well, what kind of commands can you define? You can basically get VoiceAttack to interact with any game that you have installed, and what you can get it to do is send a key press, or you can get it to play a sound file or run an application, or just use text-to-speech, so it itself can generate speech using a text-to-speech engine. Or you can also set variables within VoiceAttack and check the contents of those variables, and you can run other commands. So commands can run other commands, which means that you can run in loops and you can do all sorts of fancy things. And everything, obviously, that you saw earlier in the video is possible in this. And generally, all you'll need to do is trigger a key press for the simple stuff. So that's very, very easy to do. And you don't need to get into the complicated parts of VoiceAttack. But it does allow you to do some quite cool things. Now, as you can see, as I've been speaking here, it's been making an attempt at recognizing everything I've been saying, and it hasn't been doing a very good job. It's been getting quite a lot of things wrong. So you might be thinking, well, how could I possibly use this for gaming? Because if it's getting things wrong, then the command won't fire a vital instant, and I'll end up splattered against a wall or something. Well, it turns out that it works perfectly fine for gaming, despite what you think is going on here, because although speech recognition is getting recognition wrong, it's getting it wrong in a very consistent manner. And so, as long as you assign the command to what the speech recognition engine thinks you said, then it'll always work. Because the speech recognition engine is getting you wrong in a consistent manner. And so even though speech recognition doesn't work for speech to text, and it doesn't work for dictation, it works perfectly fine for gaming. So for instance, if I say cargo scoop down, then that command is recognized. And what that does, if we open up this command, is it basically just sends a key press to Elite Dangerous, and it plays a sound. However, if I say lower scoop, it thinks I said Laura scoop. And if I say lower scoop again, now it thinks I said Laura school. Let's just try a third time. Lower scoop. It still thinks I'm saying Laura scoop, so it always thinks I said Laura scoop. So all I need to do is go into my lower scoop command and add in Laura scoop, and actually I'll add Laura school as well. Done. And now when I say lower scoop, it's going to lower my cargo scoop, even though the text-to-speech wouldn't work correctly. And this is how you can use gaming. You can use speech recognition in gaming, even though you can't use it for dictation. And so it's going to be very exciting to see what people do with this in the next few years as regards to getting rid of giant user interfaces and replacing them with speech. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed the video. See you again.